morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome. It's so great to see you here this morning on this beautiful Sunday morning. And so let's continue to go deeper into that laughter of God, that joy of God that is our very life. And we relax and we let go of all of the cares of the week. Any burden that we may be carrying, any condition that seems to be bothering us, we just let it all go and allow ourselves to be present here in this beautiful sanctuary with one another as we listen to the words of our sacred reading.
From The Deepest Acceptance by Jeff Foster. I teach one thing and one thing only, a deep and fearless acceptance of whatever comes your way. This is not passive surrender or cold detachment, but an intelligent and creative emergence into the mystery of the moment. This realization comes after many years of listening and speaking to thousands of people on the spiritual path, hearing their concerns, answering their challenging questions, meeting them in their pain and grief and daily struggles and fear, and gently pointing them not to a future enlightenment, but to a deep and unconditional acceptance within their present moment experience. The deep acceptance that they are in their essence. Welcome to ordinary life, dear explorer. The final frontier of spiritual awakening. May you boldly go where no one has gone before. And so it is.
So it is. And so we bring this divine essence, this knowing of this divine essence into our ordinary life, into our bodies, into our circumstances, into our relationships, into our finances, all of it. It's just energy flowing, all of it is spirit. And let us remember that as we sing together, I am remembering. And we touch the beautiful stillness that is always within us. And then we bring it into our open-eyed awareness as we breathe in deeply. And then exhale, gently opening our eyes in love with what is, as it is, and so it is.
There's no shame in crying, letting go of what's been done. The debt, the loss, the past mistakes, in time you'll overcome. Though the messages of childhood left their mark upon your mind, when you bring them to awareness, you can leave them all behind. Start from where you are, one thought at a time. Let your tears release the fears. Why let shadows leave you blind? Start from where you are. Trust the dream within your heart. This moment is your present. Start from where you are. There's no time like the present for you to claim your will. It's up to you to seize the moment. It doesn't happen by itself. Start from where you are, one step at a time. It's amazing how right here, right now, the universe provides. Start from where you are, trust the dream within your heart. This moment is your present. Start from where you are. This moment is your present. It's ready to open where you are.
Thank you all, beautiful, and so well deserved for you guys to get the flowers. You just are so amazing. Thank you. Just great to be here this morning on this beautiful day, even if it is a little toasty, right? Can we just acknowledge that it's a little toasty outside, a little hot, but it's supposed to get cooler soon, I've heard? Is that just an ugly rumor, or is that the truth? I hope it's the truth. It's supposed to rain soon, so let's all pray for rain. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to start this morning by telling you a story that Richard Rohr is fond of telling. Richard Rohr is an author that I like a lot. He's a mystical author. And he tells a story about a time when he was on a personal retreat. Mystics have to take a lot of personal retreats in order to get all mystical, you know. So he was on this retreat, and it was at a monastery, and he was walking around on the grounds in the woods, and he happened upon a gentleman who was also on retreat, but this guy was like on a permanent retreat. He was what you call a recluse. Richard Rohr says that a recluse is a hermit's hermit. That means a really, really major hermit. They're not allowed to talk to anybody for years, and they also can only kind of come out of seclusion twice a year for Mass on Christmas and Easter. So he ran into this hermit in the woods, and the hermit, who hadn't spoken for years, decided to talk to Richard Rohr. He said, "Wait a minute, you're Richard Rohr." Now you might think he would have said, "Can I have your autograph?" But he didn't. He said, "You get to talk to people." Woo! The hermit said, or the recluse said, "I have a very important message for the people that I want you to tell them." Can you imagine what that message could be? This guy hasn't spoken for years, and he's got this huge message that he wants to tell the people. So Richard Rohr said, "Okay, I'm listening, I'm all ears." The recluse said, "Tell them that God is not up there." And then he said, "Thank you for listening," and went on his way for another 20 years of silence or so. But can you imagine 20 years of silence, and that's what you say, because it was obviously so clear and so important to him. So clear to him that God is in here. God is also out there and up there and everywhere, but God is also in here. That is the point of that phrase that he said, God is not up there, because God is in here. God is everywhere. So it was so important to him that he said that. And yet, you know, we've been teaching that in this church for many, many, many years. You all have heard myself and the practitioners and other people in the congregation and classes and such talk about how we believe that God is within, the Father-Mother presence is within. I remember back when we first started doing children's messages about 11 years ago or so, I used to do the children's messages, and I had a group of kids on the stage once, and I asked them, "Where is God?" Now, some of them went like that. One of the kids pointed to his tummy. But many of them put their hands over their hearts and said, "God is in here." I think all answers are correct, though. Certainly in the tummy and in here as well. So we believe it. That's what we teach. And that's what we know intellectually. However, do we really live that way all the time? Do we really live with the willingness to see God in everything and in every aspect of ourselves? Do we make decisions based on the idea that God is in here? Do we make choices in life? Do we live like it's true? Do we live as if the truth is true, that God is in here all the time? Can anybody raise your hand if you do that all the time? Let us stand up so we may worship you. We don't, right? We forget. That's why we sing that I Am Remembering song. That's to remember that God is within. We forget, and we also, I think, have this sort of uncanny, untrue notion that, yeah, we believe that God is in here, but just not yet. I have to get a few more things nailed down pat first. I have to be a better person somehow. I have to get this situation in my life cleared up. Then I'll really understand that God is in here. We are like sheep. We are like little kids in a car who have gone astray, who are yelling, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" And that's the name of this talk this morning, to answer that question, are we there yet? And you may have some ideas about whether you're there or not yet, but I ask you to reserve judgment until we get to the end of the talk, where I think we might, possibly, maybe, answer that question, are we there yet? When we talk about there, it seems to me that we're talking about what we might call enlightenment or awakening, or a sense of wholeness. And certainly a lot of us have heard of people that are enlightened or fully awakened or whole through history, the Buddha, Jesus, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, Krishnamurti, Ramana Maharshi, all kinds of wonderful beings that seem to have achieved this state of enlightenment. The Dalai Lama, all kinds of people, right? And it seems like those people really kind of have their acts together, doesn't it? They kind of know what to do, they know what to say. And those people are all famous. And yet, I am willing to believe and to bet that there are many, many, many millions of people, possibly billions of people walking around on the earth who are enlightened, who just simply are not famous. Could you be some of those people that are walking around on the earth enlightened but not famous? I don't know. Let's explore that further. I know for myself, I just said this a moment ago, but I want to rephrase it again, in that I really felt in the past that enlightenment was something for the future. When I got a little more disciplined, or when I was a better meditator, or when I had a deeper spiritual practice, or when aspects of my life worked a little bit better, then I expected I would be enlightened. Nothing could ruffle my feathers. I would just kind of float through life in a state of well-being with a cloud of angels following behind me, singing, "Oh," whenever the need arose. That's what I thought enlightened was. And I invite you to look at yourself too and ask yourself, what does enlightenment mean to me? What does awakening mean to me? What does a state of wholeness mean to me? How will that feel, or how does that feel? Or how will I be? Who will I be once I am enlightened, once I am awakened? Invite yourself to look in that deep place and see what comes up for you. What does enlightenment feel like? Chances are our perception of enlightenment has something to do with greater freedom, a sense of greater peacefulness, a deep sense of well-being, a sense of wholeness, a sense of being in the perfect place at the perfect time, even when life is imperfect, a certain amount of equanimity and balance, an ability to just be in the world but not of the world, just a way of being that is graceful and filled with light and love and compassion. The author of our featured book this week, it's called Jeff Foster, The Deepest Acceptance, and it's got a wave on the front. I love the cover. He talks about enlightenment as a sense of homecoming. If you were at the chant service that I did last week, I read a quote from this book where he talked about how we all start out in the womb, right? We all start out, everybody here start out in the womb? Okay. We all start out in our mother's womb, and we have everything we need in that environment. If it gets a little cold, the body regulates it. If we need food, we're nourished. If we need something else, we simply call womb service. Haha, couldn't resist. All right, first corny joke. Let's take a tally. But we have everything need, and then we pop out. Anybody want to make a popping sound for me? Thank you. Okay. I'm not very good at it anymore. I've lost my touch. But anyway, we pop out, we come into the world, and then we kind of lose that sense of being at home and being at peace with everything, being totally surrounded by something that nurtures us. And that's just the way we're made. It's not like we've done anything wrong. That's just the nature of life. But beyond the illusion that we are separate, what if we have popped out of our mother into a greater womb, into a greater sense of home, this place called the universe, this place called existence? And that all of our striving and all of our worrying and all of our things that we do to mix ourselves up is simply that quest for coming home to the heart of God, for coming home to the truth of who we are. Jeff Foster, the author, points out that there are many, many allegories in all traditions and in all literature that talk about this idea of coming home. There is the Christian allegory of the prodigal son who went to a foreign place and then came home and the father and mother welcomed him, right? There is the Wizard of Oz, right? That's such a homecoming allegory. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. Maybe if I click my heels enough times, I'll get out of this hot church and go home where it's even hotter. But there's all kinds of homecoming allegories. Cinderella stories is coming home to the true self when you put on the glass slipper and the rags fall away. All of the attachments and all of the things that you've said about yourself fall away. That's an allegory for another homecoming. Or romantic stories are coming home by finding completion with the perfect partner. All of those things are about coming home. So it seems to me that we are on this quest for coming home. And yet, there is something that seems to stand in the way of our complete embodiment of the sense of homecoming. So what do you think stands in the way of our embodiment of homecoming? You're not used to shouting things out. I'm working with my nerve. I'm going to try at some point do more audience participation, but I'm still a little scared of that, so more like a... Did somebody give an answer, or was that just a cough? Okay, I think, to me it seems like what stands in the way of our really realizing our homecoming, what stands in the way of our realization of our homecoming is our thought, is the way that we think about life and the way that we think about ourselves. And I'd say if I had to sum it up in one sentence, which I won't, I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes, just so you know, I would have to say that it's because our perspective, our thought rejects what is around us and names it unholy, or rejects what is within us and names it unholy. That's what prevents us from coming home. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. It seems to me that the opposite of rejection is acceptance. So in order to practice enlightenment, or in order to practice homecoming or awakening, what we have to do is practice deep acceptance. Now, one of the things that I think we are called to accept is the truth of who we are, the truth of our divine, beautiful, miraculous, outstanding, wonderful, perfectly imperfect nature. All of that. In this book, Jeff tells a story about a friend of his who was an atheist. And she was, I think she was a professor and a scientist, and she did not believe in anything that could not be proven. She didn't believe in God, she didn't believe in the mystery, she didn't believe in anything other than what could be proven, and she also said she didn't believe in anything that was not validated by peer review research. Made a very big point about peer review research. She said it several times and put it in quotes. Peer review research is when all your colleagues look at what you've written and pick it to pieces, right? Try and find the loopholes in it. So she didn't believe in any of this stuff. And then everything changed for her, because one day she had a baby. And she held that baby in her arms, and she said, "Oh my God, God, what was I thinking?" And she looked at its perfect little fingers and its perfect little toes and its little smile and its little toothless gums, and just felt this vast connection with something so beyond anything that she could even begin to understand. She felt a connection with life itself and with the cosmos and with mothers and babies everywhere, and that thing that creates something out of nothing. She felt this divine connection, and she said to herself, "This is so much better than peer-reviewed research." Now, maybe you're like me, maybe you haven't had a baby, or maybe you haven't had a baby recently, but you may remember moments in your life where you have felt connected to something great. Maybe it was a great sunset, or some of the great music that we hear at this church that connects you. Or maybe it was just something like a really good cookie, something that was just delicious. All of this stuff just connects us to something greater than ourselves, and we don't, it's all there, but we don't tend to remember it. We feel like we have to prove it. One of the reasons it's so hard to see is that God is very clever and very sneaky. God hides in the last place we would think to look, and that is in omnipresence, everywhere. Have you heard the story about the two fish that were swimming side by side? And one of the fish said to the other fish, "Oh my God, I just heard about this wonderful thing. It's called water." And the other fish said, "What, really? Where is it?" That's similar to our relationship with God. We can't see God because it's such a fabric of our lives. It's so omnipresent that we don't even see it. But what this brings to mind for me is that if God is omnipresent, and I believe that it is, because infinity cannot be divided, and God is infinite, how did we lose that capacity through omnipresence to marvel at the miracle that we are? When is the last time you looked at your fingers and your toes like you would a little baby's and said, "Oh my goodness, this is incredible"? My toes have great toenail polish on them today, so it's kind of easy for me, but take a moment and just look at your hands. This miracle of grace that was given to you that is just filled with cells and blood vessels and wrinkles in my case, and scars that were won, and calluses, and sometimes dirty fingernails. But could you just, for fun, occasionally look at your hands like it's the first time you've seen them? Like they're the hands of a special baby? Because when did that change? Chances are when you were born, you looked at your hands and counted your fingers and counted your toes and said, "Oh my gosh, what a miracle. Look at these little fingers, look at these toes." But when did that miracle go away? When you were 2? When you were 7? When you were 57? Like me? That miracle is still there. We just don't see it. We take it for granted. So that's one of the first ways to find enlightenment, to stop asking the question, "Are we there? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" Just look around you. Look at your hands. Look no farther than your breath or your hands or your what you can see with your eyes, and see that you are just immersed in this powerful miracle. And the other thing that I think is important in terms of finding this sense of wholeness and enlightenment is indeed to look at the way that we are defining the word wholeness. A little while ago I said that probably we define enlightenment like feeling perfectly at peace and perfectly freedom and having this deep sense of well-being and having this sense of wholeness. It is challenging for us to see wholeness. 2 reasons that I discerned. One is that we are looking for wholeness with the thing we are looking with. We're God looking for God. It's like trying to see your eye with your own eye, right? Just do that right now. Just try and see your eye. You can't do it, right? You need to look in a mirror, and that's why we have life. Life is our mirror. So we're trying to look for wholeness with the wholeness that we are, and it's almost impossible to see unless we really make a bit of an effort, do a little bit of conscious laboring to see it, to make ourselves aware of it. The other reason that I think we have difficulty with homelessness, with wholeness, is that we have a faulty definition of what wholeness is. We might as well call it halfness, because we think what we like is whole and what we don't like is broken. We think what brings us joy is whole, but what brings us sorrow is broken. We think what is light is whole, but what is dark is broken, is not whole. So, what if what all the mystics said is true, and that absolutely everything that occurs in our lives, in the seen and the unseen side of life, all of our feelings, everything that happens, all conditions, everything is a part of wholeness, and everything is a gift waiting to be revealed for us through our spiritual work and through our intentions. I think that's one of the main things that keeps us out of the state of enlightenment, is our refusal to see that everything truly is whole. I'm going to read you a quote from the book. Some of this is him and some of this is me. The degree to which we shut ourselves off from wholeness is the degree to which we suffer. We shut ourselves off from wholeness by rejecting present moment conditions. We shut ourselves off from wholeness by pursuing a future wholeness. And then the part that really resonated with me that I thought of as I was meditating on this topic is this idea that I look at my life and I see that something is wrong and it has the power to deplete me. But really, in truth, that thing that feels like it's going to deplete me is really here to complete me, to engage me in this effortless and ageless and infinite cycle of completion, of resting and revealing and seeing the gifts in everything. We engage in infinite ongoing completion when we practice deep acceptance. Deep acceptance is your point of power. It is your homecoming. It is surrendering to God's omnipresence hidden in the world. Deep acceptance. Now that bears definition as well, because whenever I talk about acceptance or surrender, and I talk about it a lot, I've shared this with you before, I inevitably get the "what about Hitler" question. And then I share with you that I beg you not to start with Hitler. Work your way up to him if you could. But it is a valid question. It really is a valid question. What about Hitler? And we just had the 9/11 anniversary this past Friday. What about that? What about the things that just seem unthinkable and unspeakable? How do we accept that? Is that saying that it's okay that those things happened? And this book for me actually helped me reconcile the idea of acceptance by looking at it in a new way. Acceptance doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean being a wimp. It doesn't mean never having an opinion. It doesn't mean giving up. Acceptance just means telling the truth about it. Speaking, saying what you see, for awareness is curative. Not only do we tell the truth about what is happening out here, is we tell the truth about what is happening in here. Often when I'm trying to be all spiritual, when I'm resisting acceptance, it's because I am trying to be holier than I am in the moment. And that's a judgment on my part. I feel like I shouldn't be whining about this. I shouldn't be complaining about this. I shouldn't be judging this so harshly. But what am I doing in that? I'm judging my judging. I'm judging my whining. I'm judging my complaining. To go far, start where you are. It's an old cliche, but that's what it is. We start where we are, and we start accepting what is happening for us or to us or through us by telling the truth about it. But there is a catch. There is a catch to that truth, because our truth is based on our perspective, and we have to tell the truth about that too. Our truth is not the whole truth. Our truth is only what we see. Something that is happening to us that seems difficult for us is something joyful for somebody else. Talk to me about the Santa Paula High School band practice when I'm trying to write, and they're doing the drum line, and it's all like just loud. And I get stuck in this trip of, oh my God, it's so noisy. How can I possibly do my work? And then if I'm willing to just accept that I'm complaining and just be with that and breathe, something shifts, and I say, yes, I am annoyed, and it is making it difficult for me to do my work, but it's also about 40 teenagers doing something really constructive and really fun. And then the drum line is totally different. I'm like, woo, there is one life. That life is God's life. That life is my life now. So it changes everything. The willingness to accept and be with what is without necessarily having to act it out, to be with what is with detachment, to be with what is, well, knowing that it is not the whole truth, and then making a joyful and God-centered choice, because God is where? God is in here. A God-centered choice as to how to participate with it in a new creative way that will bring the most good for all beings. That is your point of power, and that is enlightenment. I just shared with you my trauma with the drum line in the marching school band, and it's funny because I like to give an example of how this stuff has worked in my life. And I've had this ongoing relationship with the high school. I live right near the high school, and it's a very noisy place to live, and they built a new stadium, so it's really epically noisy right now, new sound system. And I'm always going around thinking, I need solitude, I need quiet, I need to rest, I need solitude in order for me to do my job, in order for me to show up and be who I need to be, in order to be present for the congregation, in order to be effective on Sundays. I need solitude so I can meditate and so I can go deep. I need this. And I'm always telling the universe that that is what I need. And the universe just laughs at me. The universe, as I said, just laughs, coffee squirting out the universe's nose. It's just laughing at me. And the universe's crowning achievement recently was to build a daycare center for the high school right next to my house. Woohoo! So I chauffeur the dogs all over Ventura County for their recreation. I take them hiking or to the beach or something, and then I come back at 8 a.m. and I open the door, and the first thing I hear is, wah! And that goes on all day, and off and on all day. It's getting better. I did actually speak to somebody, and they said they're a little tricky the first month or so. And so, whatever. It's like right by my window. But it's the same thing. I can feel myself escalating. I can feel myself saying, I need quiet, and then judging myself because I need quiet, because I'm saying that. And then judging them and judging the babies, the poor little innocent babies who are having a great time screaming their heads off, and just getting in this whole cycle of this is all about me, this is a bad thing, this is okay. The book says accept everything but this, it doesn't really say that. So I feel myself going into this place, and then again, just doing this practice of acceptance. Okay, really, what is so bad about, why is it so distracting to you? What's wrong? And then really the big work comes with, why is it that you need quiet so badly? And then that points to my own feelings of inadequacy, that if I don't have quiet, my enoughness is very conditional. I need this and this and this in order to be enough. I need a quiet environment. I need a lot of time. I need this in order to be able to prepare a good sermon or write a good blog post or whatever. So it's not really about the crying baby. It's about what's going on inside. And I'm going to ask you a question. Is it more powerful to be a person who can create exactly what is needed in order to keep you copacetic in the universe? Or is it more powerful to be able to transcend everything that happens, to embrace and transcend it, to trust that there is a place of peace that is so deep within you that it cannot be rattled or shattered by anything? Which do you think is more powerful, number one or number two? Okay, two. Well, let's don't go there. Okay, so that's the teaching of this work, I think, this deep acceptance. Again, it is not pretending that it's all right when it isn't. It is simply telling the truth and then having a creative response to what is going on. A creative response that selects from the infinite realm of possibilities, that your way is not the only way, that my way is not the only way. In between my way and your way, there is a beautiful place that contains infinite possibilities, and we're always looking for the one that brings the greatest good to the most people. So, I said at the beginning of this talk that at the end of it, we might possibly answer the question to the talk title, are you there yet? My answer to that would be, are you there yet? There is no there. There is only here. And you are here to the extent that you are willing to practice and do the work of deep acceptance. Doesn't that feel better? Doesn't that feel attainable? Yes? It does, and we'll forget from time to time. There will be times when we will make exceptions. We'll say that this is unacceptable, I can't possibly accept this, but again, it's not accepting it in terms of giving into it. It is telling the truth about it and telling the truth about yourself in relationship to it, and then choosing from the infinite possibilities. I know that every single person sitting here in this sacred sanctuary, and even the people in the balcony, that everybody has the capacity to do that. So again, There is no there. There is only here. And it all depends on our willingness to do the work of being here with deep acceptance. Let's do the work now. Let us pray. All righty. Oh, I'm going to give a short prayer because we want to go home, right? We want to go home where it's cooler, maybe? Or go to the beach, jump in the ocean? Let's all do that. No. Okay. We'll just turn within and pray and just absolutely know that the words and the music and the fellowship and all of this has just been so much more evidence that there is only one perfect life. That life is God's life. That life is the omnipresence that I spoke of, and that life lives and moves and has its perfect being in each and every one of us. That life is good. That life is holy. That life is who I am. And when I say I am speaking of the name of God. I am that I am. That I am applies to all of us. And so in this place, we know the I am presence, and we recognize that I am is holy. I am is pure, and the I am within me is holy and pure and dedicated to doing this beautiful work, this empowering work. And so from this point forward, I affirm collectively that the work of enlightenment, the work of awakening, the work of acceptance comes easily to us, that we celebrate opportunities to do the work, that whenever life presents us with an opportunity, with something that feels out of alignment, it's not that we're doing something wrong, it's so that we can do the work, so that we can open up and be that greater place of equanimity and peace and power and wholeness that is so blessed and so beautiful and so wonderful. We anchor ourselves in the present moment to know this truth that sets us free, and we are grateful for it. So grateful for the power and the presence of the living God that lives and moves and has its perfect being in each of us. So grateful for this teaching. So grateful for all spiritual places everywhere, which would be everything. We bless all paths to God. Churches, synagogues, temples, mosques, ashrams. We bless fundamentalists and atheists. We bless everyone, for everyone is a blessing. We give thanks for the transformation that I know has occurred in each and every one of us today. And with a heart filled with gratitude, we say, thank you, Spirit, thank you, God. And we release these words into the mystery. And together we say, and so it is.
Do you ever wonder where it leads? The road that lies before you is a mystery. There are no signs to read, but following your dreams will lead you home. Whenever you lose your way and faith's put to the test, you're too afraid to take another step. Whenever the sun fades and it's too dark to see, keep on walking. There might be a burden weighing on your back. There might be the highest mountain standing in your path. Carry on with grace, thankful for each day in this life.